Okay, here we go. We are ready to multiply decimals. Remember, you want to have your notes out and a pencil so you can follow along and write down all the things that I'm writing. First off, whenever we look at our multiplication problem, here we have 12 times 8 equals 96. The numbers that you're multiplying are called factors. All right, let's go ahead and label those. So 12 is a factor and 8 is a factor. The answer to a multiplication problem is called the product. Okay, so whenever we multiply numbers with decimals, we're actually going to multiply them as if there was no decimal point. This is very different from adding and subtracting because you do not have to line up the decimal points whenever you're multiplying. Okay, we're just going to multiply the numbers as if that decimal point wasn't even there. And then once we get our product, we're going to place the decimal point where it needs to be. Okay, let's try a few of these. So come on down here to the examples and you can follow along with me. So in example A, we have 3/100 times 1/100. So we're going to first rewrite that problem. Okay, so I'm going to write it like this. I know it looks like I'm lining the decimal points up, but we actually want to think of it as just 3 times 1. Okay, so 3 times 1 we know is 3. And then for our decimal point, we want to look and see how many numbers there are after the decimal point in each one of the factors. So you see in our first factor, 3/100, there are 2 numbers after the decimal point. In 1/100, there are also 2 numbers after the decimal point. So that means in our product, we want 4 total numbers after the decimal point. So we are going to start at the end of the number, okay, so behind 3, and we're going to bounce that decimal point over 4 places, 3, 4. So my decimal point's going to go here, and then we have to fill those place values in with zeros. So our final answer is going to be 3/10,000ths. Okay, multiply the numbers as if there were no decimal point, and then we put that decimal point where we want it in the product. Let's try another one here, example B. Okay, so we're doing 8/10 times 4/100. Okay, we know that 8 times 4 is 32. Then we're going to look at the factors. There was 1 number after the decimal point in our first factor. Oops, I wrote 2, but I meant 1. Sorry about that. Okay, there's 1 number after the decimal point in the first factor. There are 2 numbers after the decimal point in the second factor. So that means we need a total of 3 numbers after the decimal point in our product. So starting at the end of the number, we're going to count over 1, 2, 3 places. Fill in the extra place with a 0. So our final answer is going to be 32,000ths. All right, guys, I want you to pause the video and you're going to try the next 2 on your own, and then you can check your answers. Okay, we are on the back side of your notes now. We're going to do a couple more examples together. Let's check out example E. So now we have 41/100 times 3 57/100. Okay, so we're going to multiply the numbers as if the decimal points weren't there. So that means that you always want to put the number that has the most digits on top. So I'm going to write 3 57/100 on top, and then we'll put 41/100 down below. Okay, again, our decimal points happen to line up, but remember, we don't have to line them up. Okay, we're going to follow our same multiplication process. So I'm going to take 1 times 7, and then 1 times 5, 1 times 3. Start your second row with a 0 for the placeholder, and now we do 4 times 7 is 28, carry the 2, 4 times 5 is 20, plus 2 is 22, 4 times 3 is 12, plus 2 is 14. We're going to add our rows together. 5 plus 8 is 13, 6, 4, 1. Okay, now we're going to come back up here to the factors. There are 2 digits after the decimal point in our first factor, 2 digits after the decimal point in our second factor, so that means we need 4 total places after the decimal point in the product. So start at the end of the number, bounce it over 4 places, and our final product is going to be 1 and 4,637 10,000ths. Okay, let's come on over here and look at example F. So once again, we're going to multiply those numbers as if there were no decimal points. Okay, so I got my problem set up. Let's go ahead and multiply. 7 times 5 is 35. Carry the 3. 7 times 0 is 0, plus 3. 7 times 2 is 14. Start your second row with 0 as a placeholder. 2 times 5 is 10. Carry the 1. 2 times 0 is 0, plus 1. 2 times 2 is 4. We're going to add our rows together. And, okay, then we want to come back up and take a look at our factors. We've got 2 numbers after the decimal point in our first factor. And then in our other factor, 27, I don't see a decimal point, which means that it's at the end of the number. So there are no digits after the decimal point in 27. So down in our product, we want 2 total digits after the decimal point. So we'll bounce it over 2 places. And then our final answer is 55 and 35 hundredths. Okay, you guys are ready to practice one on your own, so go ahead, pause the video, and then come back here to check it.